Hello everyone and welcome back to the Icing on the Skate podcast. Yes, we're back here again for episode 9, I believe. Is that right, Chris? Episode 9?
It's what it says on here.
I mean, I think that's right.
That's literally what I'm going by, so...
I'm pretty sure it's right. So, hello everyone. For those of you who don't know, the Icing on the Skate podcast, we talk about the British Elite League and British hockey, then we talk about the NHL, then we talk about a little bit of everything in between, because why not? We don't just talk about one league, because there's about 1 billion podcasts in the hockey world that talk about specific stuff. So let's talk about the Elite League, shall we? So, we're what, like 2 months, 2.5 months in, roughly now, into the Elite League season, something like that? Oh, I'm with Chris, by the way. Hi, Chris.
Hiya!
So, this last weekend, it was primarily league action, because of course we talked about the Challenge Cup mostly last week.
Yes, there was one Challenge Cup game just to round the groups off, and then some confusion over this playing game.
Yes, so, Chris, do you want to take us through the games that took place this weekend and clear up that confusion?
Okay, right. So, we'll start on the Saturday. 4 league games, all at 7 o'clock. Panthers 4, Giants 1, Clan 5, Flyers 2, Stars 4, Storm 3, and Devils 4, Steelers 3.
Yep.
And the one game in the Challenge Cup, Blaze 4, Guildford Flames 5 after a shootout.
Okay.
Back into the Elite League, everyone Elite League on Sunday. Panthers 2, Giants 0, Blaze 9, Clan 2, Flyers 1, Stars 3, Storm 4, Steelers 3, and Flames 3, Devils 1.
Okay. So, those were all of the games that took place.
Yep.
Some pretty crazy results, I think, in some ways. I mean, the 11-goal game between Coventry and Glasgow. Once again, defence was obviously optional in that game. You had Dundee beating Fife. You had Manchester beating Sheffield. They're still undefeated at home against the Steelers so far this year, are the Manchester Storm. And Guildford taking a win against Cardiff. So, and also, you've got to mention the Belfast Giants. We were talking about how the Belfast Giants and the Cardiff Devils, of course, they had their Champions Hockey League start to the season. We were talking about how, you know, when they get their games in hand, they'll start to get going a little bit. And they had a 0-point weekend, as did the Sheffield Steelers, who were at the top of the league before this weekend. So, still, a lot of those teams, sort of the top 7-8 teams, are very much keeping it close at the moment, which means that it's going to be super exciting for us as Elite League fans and Elite League fans around the league to see how crazy this is. So, Chris, do you want to just summarise the confusion about the play-in game now that the last game in the group has been decided?
Okay, so the play-in game is between the Coventry Blaze and the Manchester Storm.
Yes.
And it is being played on the 20th of November, so a week on Wednesday.
Yep, 9 days away.
Yep, which I've been told is on Free Sports, although it's not on the Free Sports schedule yet.
Okay. I believe they have said
Now,
that they're going to show it, though, so yeah.
Yes. Now, if you look at the league website, they are playing on a Wednesday night, face-off at 5:30.
Okay.
Which, for a midweek game, is just preposterous, because nobody will be there.
That's incredibly ambitious, yeah.
Now, I spoke, when this first came out, and indeed on the Lions stream yesterday, I was speaking to Chris Ellis about it. Of course, he's doing the free sports between the benches type thing.
Yeah.
And his exact words, I can get his exact words up, were basically along the lines of absolutely no way.
Right.
Yeah, no way would it be 5:30. It's 7:30. I can't believe any club would face off on a weekday at 5:30.
No, which wouldn't make any sense.
No, which does make sense. Now, according to the Free Sports schedule,
okay,
they haven't put it in yet, but at 9 o'clock they've got a Champions Hockey League knockout game.
Oh.
So
and they did a poll to like decide, which games you guys want to watch, because of course both Elite League teams have been knocked out.
In terms of Free Sports, it seems to work that they would start at 5:30. That would finish then at about 8 o'clock. Then they'd have the draw, and then they'd have the CHL stuff. So Chris says no, it will be 7:30. The league says 5:30. nobody actually knows. The only thing I haven't done is check the Coventry Blaze website, which I'll do now.
Okay, because so the league haven't come out and said officially like which one it is yet.
No. Well,
No.
on the league thing, it says it's 5:30
No, but
on the league website.
have they like on their social medias or anything been like, oh, the playing game's at 5:30 or the playing game's at 7:30?
No. No.
And okay, well they've only got
The Coventry Blaze website says that it's 7:30.
okay.
So the league is either Coventry's website is wrong or the league website is wrong. One of the two. I suspect that the league website is wrong.
Basically, there's been a bit of a lack in communication, by the looks of it.
So basically nobody really knows
hopefully
what's going
by
on,
this time next week we'll know.
Hopefully.
And then we can talk about it in a bit more detail. So now that we're even more confused, the Challenge Cup always finds a way to confuse us even more.
Oh, don't.
So, do you want, Chris? Do you want to take us through the standings of the Elite League as they sit right now on Monday, the 11th of November? Remembrance Day, by the way, guys. So, Happy Veterans Day, as the North Americans call it, but Remembrance Day. Remember all of those that have passed. All of that. Chris, take us through the standings.
Top of the league, the Glasgow Clan, 19 points. Second, the Steelers on 18. Third, the Giants on 18. Fourth, the Devils on 16. Fifth, the Blaze on 16. Sixth, the Panthers on 15. Seventh, the Flames on 14. Eighth, the Flyers on 13. The Stars in ninth on 11. And the Storm in 10th on 9. Obviously, all the games are here, there, and everywhere, really. Games played.
I mean, we've got Cardiff with the lowest at 12. Got Belfast and Manchester at 13. Guildford at 13 as well. Most of the teams that are kind of sitting in the higher positions are on 14, 15 games. It's kind of like 13, 14 is the average at the moment in the league right now.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Glasgow managed to go back up to first place in the league after Sheffield sitting up there for quite a while. They have 2 games in hand on Sheffield also. Belfast tied in points with Sheffield. They're both in second and third, like Chris mentioned. Belfast have 3 games in hand on Sheffield, so they only need to win 1. They go up to second place. And if they win 1 and Glasgow lose 1, they're up in first. So Belfast still very competitive, considering they dropped both their games this weekend against the Nottingham Panthers. Fantastic performance by the Panthers this month, or this last weekend or so. Cardiff still very much competitive, 16 points in 12 games. They won a game this weekend, they lost a game this weekend, so they're still doing fine. Nottingham have seemed to have found their stride recently, which is good for Panthers fans. Hopefully this means that the month of December will be a little bit better for the Panthers fans. They're kind of used to having a really bad end of the year. So maybe they've already got that past them, and now they're going to start getting some wins. I mean, 15 points in 15 games. They're only 4 points back from first place. So they're still very much in it. They've made a couple of changes here and there to the lineup, and it looks like they might have made them at the right time. So that's good for them. Guildford still staying relatively competitive. They've got 2 games in hand on some of the teams above them. Fife are doing okay. Dundee still managing to just about keep themselves in the race. They've played more games than any other team at 17. They have 11 points, so it's an uphill battle for them, but they're still almost there. And Manchester, sure, they're only on 9 points, but they do have a few games in hand on some of these other teams, so they just need to start winning a few more of these games. So we'll see how that goes. So yeah, that's what the standings and the scores look like for the Elite League at the moment. Let's go through the Department of Player Safety.
Yay!
Everybody's favourite department. So there's only one call that was made this last week. It was made Tuesday, November 5th, so almost exactly a week ago. And it was to Marc-Olivier Vallerand, who was suspended for 1 game due to an incident that took place between a game against the Guildford Flames. Of course, Vallerand plays for the Sheffield Steelers. It was on the 3rd of November 2019. And Vallerand was given a major and game misconduct for cross-checking in the game. He has been suspended 1 game for roughing. Now, the key references to this suspension, it was roughing. The player that was roughed was unsuspecting of the rough. Which was it was a cross-check. Like the Department of Player Safety have called it a roughing. It's a cross-check.
They've decided, didn't they, that if you slow it down, it's more like a punch than a cross-check.
I can see what they mean, but the way he held his stick, it was a cross-check. It was also classed as reckless and endangering, and Category 1 careless. So, Chris, have you seen the replay, the Department of Player Safety?
Watched it, yeah.
What do you think?
I think he's I almost think he's potentially a bit lucky to only have one. I
Yeah,
think the fact that there was no kind of injury there helped it being only one.
absolutely.
But cross-check a guy in the back of the head when he's already down on the ice, yeah, not the smartest thing to do in the world.
Now, Chris and I did have a bit of a laugh when this first got announced, because we had a look through all the comments on Twitter when the Elite League announced it. Watching Steelers fans discuss this, or some Steelers fans, not all Steelers fans are like this, of course, but you get some Steelers fans that are like, this is disgraceful. It's like, come on, he cross-checked him in the back of the head. Like, that's worthy of a suspension. And the ref was right there. It's not as if the referee was on the other side of the ice. He was standing right in the corner. He's standing right in the corner, near the net. He sees Valorant right in front of him, cross-check the guy, or as the league says, roughen or punch the guy in the back of the head. And they're all like, he shouldn't get one game for that. I mean, I pretty much agree with you, Chris. I wouldn't have been surprised if it was 2 games. However, they've gone with the whole, it was Category 1 careless, so they're keeping it consistent with all the other Category 1 careless calls they've had. So I think for Valeron, that works quite nicely in his favour. The league are being consistent, maybe not giving him more that maybe he deserved or not, I don't know. That's up to interpretation. I definitely think he deserved this suspension. I definitely think it was careless, and I just cannot understand anybody that looks at it and goes, that's not a suspension. It just makes me laugh. Steelers fans, come on, wake up. Anyway, that was the only call of the Department of Player Safety. Once again, they're being incredibly consistent with all of their previous calls, so I'm happy with them.
Yeah, suspension served on Saturday night in the 4-3 loss to Cardiff.
Yeah, they could have really used him in that game, couldn't they?
Yeah.
But I find it really good that I don't think we've had one call from the Department of Player Safety so far this season that I've thought, no, I don't agree with that.
No, I think they've got them all right so far, to be honest.
I think since that whole shake-up that they had like a season or 2 ago, they've really found their stride with it now and being incredibly consistent with the calls that they're making. So fair play to them. I'm happy. I actually have quite a lot of faith in this Department of Player Safety now. If you'd asked me 2 seasons ago, I would have been like, not so sure. But now,
I think the one that's caused, well, the 2 that have caused the biggest controversy was one, Michael Davis's goal peg incident, but there wasn't really a precedent for that, so they had to kind of come up with something.
Yep.
And the other one was this Gagnon and Davis fight, blood, slew for all the rest of it. But then, as we did on the podcast when it happened, when you broke it down,
yeah,
they were consistent for each component.
Absolutely. And once again, it's Sheffield Steelers. Like, I wonder why it's controversial, because they complain about it all the time. Anyway, I love the Sheffield Steelers fans, most of them anyway. Anyway, let's move on. So, just in case you guys are wondering, we might get some news in terms of the league layout for next season and beyond within the next few weeks or so, because the Elite League announced on Friday, November 8th, that the applications for EIHL franchises for the 2020/21 season and beyond are now open. So, according to the Elite League Ice Hockey League is pleased to welcome initial expressions of interest for operating an EIHL franchise in the 20/21 season and beyond. Interested parties should send a general overview of their proposed franchise to the EIHL by the 4th of December 2019. Any expressions of interest will be discussed in confidence at the league's next board meeting on the 5th of December 2019. Interested parties are under no obligation to take further steps than the initial expression of interest, and the Elite League board will accept such decisions in good faith. Parties are under no obligation to submit detailed financial proposals at this stage. However, these and a presentation to the Elite League board would be required for early 2020. So, there's obviously been some talk about the Murrayfield Racers joining the Elite League, some discussion about the Edinburgh Capitals, if they're going to be revived. I think it is also important to mention that there was an article that I think the Daily Mail wrote, I think on the 4th of November, I want to say, about the Continental Hockey League president coming out and saying that there is some interest in putting a KHL team either in London or in Reading, of all places. I'm not quite sure why Reading, of all places, but that's a place that's been suggested. And this is the first time that the commissioner or one of the presidents of the KHL has actually come out and said something official that they would like to have a team in England. It's always been speculated and rumoured for the last half a decade, but now there actually genuinely seems to be some interest and some talks and some negotiations going on. So that might put a damper to some of the teams that might join the league, or that might throw a spanner in the works. There's nothing that's been set out there yet. But Chris, do you think we will see any more franchises join the Elite Ice Hockey League for next season and beyond?
Not sure. It was a discussion we had last night on our live stream as well.
Okay.
And the teams that are most likely perhaps to kind of have a realistic shot of coming up don't really have the facilities to do it.
Okay.
Whether that be, I mean, there's people like Peterborough's rink is far too small and not good enough quality.
Right.
I think Bracknell had the similar problem from what I remembered from people saying. The most likely one is probably Hull.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
With the Pirates, because their kind of coach and manager is keen to kind of give it a go. Other than that, I mean, that's kind of really it. The other one is Milton Keynes giving it another go.
I don't see the point.
That was the other one that was kind of around, but
to be honest, like I don't see the point in Milton Keynes coming back, and that's not to like say they don't deserve to come back or anything like that. I just don't think the infrastructure is in place in that organisation to be able to facilitate a successful Elite League franchise. Because as far as I'm aware, and I'm not that keyed up in the Milton Keynes Lightning organisation, not much has changed since they left the Elite League. And
and in fact, they've not had the best of seasons so far in the National League. In fact, their October has been pretty poor. Well, they picked it up last weekend, but they've won 4 out of their 15 games. They currently find themselves 8th out of 10.
Okay.
So you've got Swindon at the top, but again, their stuff just isn't good enough. Their facilities and stuff. This is the problem with there's such a big step between the Elite League and the National League, really.
And I think that has a lot to do with the imports. It has a lot to do with the amount of import players that Elite League teams can have. So you have a team. I feel like that could also be a big factor. If a team, say if Milton Keynes did join the Elite League again, they'd be able to have a lot more import players on their roster, wouldn't they? Which means that they'd have the opportunity to perhaps compete more closely with the Elite League teams. Take Hull, for example. I think if there's any team or any franchise that I think off the top of my head would have the best chance, it's Hull. Because the infrastructure's there. They're a successful franchise.
But then you go into, do you really want to go back to 11 teams?
Yeah, exactly.
And we know what happened with stuff like the Challenge Cup last year. With 11 teams,
but then again,
they've better go up to 12.
They've made it super confusing with 10 teams. So at this point, I don't really care. They're just going to make it confusing regardless.
That is true.
So what about the Murrayfield races, Chris? Of course, we've had the discussion so many times about Edinburgh and Murrayfield, especially in last season's podcast when we discussed like all the ongoing negotiations and what was going on there. Of course, at the moment, the Edinburgh Capitals franchise is non-existent. The Murrayfield Racers have been taking part in like cup competitions, but then are they part of a league at the moment? I can't quite remember off the top of my head.
I think they're still in the Scottish League, but they're in the EIHL North Cup.
Okay.
Because they had quite a fiery game against Whitley.
Last
night, which had not the best finish to it, but Murrayfield, I still think they need more in the way of establishing themselves. I think if they make the jump too early, they're just going to be like Edinburgh.
Okay.
But
do you think they might have because the last time the league expanded was, of course, they brought in both Guildford and Milton Keynes. Do you think they'll want to wait until they can introduce 2 more teams to make it 12?
I don't know whether they will or not. I think they should.
Okay.
Because it will make everything a lot easier.
Okay.
And I think it would just be more balanced if they do.
Yeah. And of course, I think it depends where these teams come from. Like, if we have another team up in Scotland, you can make a division of all Scottish teams. If it's...
Yeah, well, if you had 12, you'd do 3 groups of 4 in the Challenge Cup, 1 home, 1 away, 6 games each.
Yeah. Another place I've heard mentioned, I don't know how realistic this is, but Dublin. Dublin has been discussed to an extent. I believe I don't know any of this like for sure, but I've heard that they've been building a rink in Dublin for a little while, or they've got a rink there already and things are going okay. But then again, of course, that brings into the situation they're not in the UK. So
Yes, that's what I was about to say. Then it's not the United Kingdom ice hockey.
well, it's
kind of
called the
league.
Elite Ice Hockey League, isn't it?
It is, yeah, but it's only United Kingdom teams.
True.
Um,
But it would be
so whether
it would be quite cool to have a Belfast Dublin rivalry. That would be
That would
pretty
be
cool.
quite, yeah.
Like North and South, that'd be pretty cool. But
yeah,
I think I
that'd be
feel
quite cool.
like that's wishful thinking though.
Yeah, I think so. I don't really think there's anything in that, to be honest.
No, obviously something might arrive, which would be great. But so the 11th franchise is going to be in my back garden. So it's going to be the Odd Man Rush winners, and we're
Oh
going to.
yes, £40,000
Yeah.
tickets, aren't they?
Yeah,
And
so-
you're going to drive the Zamboni.
So I'm going to make a rink in my back garden. I have a decent sized back garden, so we should be able to get it up to league
Is it
standards.
200 foot?
No, but
Oh.
we'll make it slightly smaller and just like bribe the league to let us in. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
How much smaller have we got to go?
I don't know. I haven't actually measured the garden, so I will have a rink made. I'll drive the Zamboni and be the general manager and head coach because I'm a genius,
Right.
as we know.
Okay.
We're gonna have rink side seats will be about $5,000 each per game. The webcast is going to be like £100 per game because if the Sheffield Steelers can do it, so can we. And then I'm in a Sheffield Steelers mood today, aren't I? It's because their fans keep whining and it's so annoying. And then I might stick a few seats on top of my shed. Chris thought of this brilliant idea, and they'll be like the upper bowl, and they'll be $45,000. I might sell some seats from like
they're
the
exec
windows.
seats.
Yeah, we'll have some window
Yeah.
seats like in my house as well. You also get like the heating when it gets cold outside, so I think it's perfect. I'll make more money than most of the team, so it's fine. But anyway, let's move on from wishful thinking to a player that has joined the league this last week. This was announced
Yes.
also on Tuesday, November the 5th.
You talk about that. I realise that I've left my laptop charger in my other room, so I best go and get it, otherwise I'll get cut off.
Okay, good idea. Don't want you falling out of the podcast for no reason. So, the Belfast Giants, they have run into a bit of injury trouble these last few games. So they needed to bring in another body in order to make up their roster. They decided to bring in another import player in the form of Ryan Lowney. The 25-year-old defenseman joined the Belfast Giants for their doubleheader against the Nottingham Panthers, which they lost both games. I think they scored 1 goal over this weekend as well, so that's not very good. But yeah, so due to some of the injuries, Adam Keefe said, due to injuries, we've been on the lookout for an addition to our team for a few weeks now. Once we knew Ryan was available, we moved quickly to bring him to Belfast. He will be a solid addition to our blue line with the ability to contribute on special teams. I know our fans are going to love watching Ryan in action this season. For context, Lowney started this season in Slovakia and had 4 points in 18 games during his first season in Europe. And prior to that, he played 2 full seasons in the ECHL with the Fort Wayne Comets, totaling 79 points in 176 games. So, Chris, now that you're back and your laptop's charging,
I'm back, yeah.
what do you think about this signing for the Belfast Giants?
I think it does a job. I mean, he's not had the best of starts. He's on -2 and 2 penalty minutes, and they lost both games.
Yep.
But he does a job being the injury cover. So, yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say so early on as to how he does.
Of course, he's only been brought in as injury cover, so I would imagine he's on a short-term, like 1-month contract.
Yes, I'm assuming he's covering Jesse Forsberg,
Yeah.
who's the only Belfast player that's out at the moment.
But as I read in the quote just before you got back, they've been scouting this guy for the last few weeks because, of course, they've had some problems with suspensions and injuries for the last couple of weeks on their blue line, so that's why they've brought him in. So we'll have to see if that goes well. I think it could be good. He's a 25-year-old. He's certainly not. His young days certainly haven't passed him just yet. He's played in the ECHL, and ECHL players tend to have quite a lot of success in the Elite League. There seems to be a good overlap of talent level between those two leagues. So hopefully that will go quite well. That's really the only player we can talk about. And like Chris mentioned, he's been quite quiet in his first weekend. Maybe just adjusting to the situation. He probably didn't get much time to practice before the games took place this weekend. But anyway, so that's the only player. There's no players that have left the league this week. That's the only player that's joined. Now let's go from the Elite League to international hockey regarding the Elite League and some of the players and some of the teams in the Elite League. So, Chris brought this up like a couple of hours before the podcast took place. The Nottingham Panthers, as we've mentioned, or Chris specifically has mentioned these last few weeks, they have now headed off to Denmark to play in the Continental Cup. So they're not playing any regular season games.
They're going on Thursday.
Yeah, they're going on Thursday. Their first game is Friday against Amiens.
Yep.
And the Nottingham Panthers website have put up a link for all of the live streams of every single game in the Continental Cup. I'm not quite sure what channel does it. It's not the Nottingham Panthers. It's the host city that.
No, it's a double IHF thing.
Yeah.
And there is English commentary, but I don't know who's doing it.
Exactly. So, they start on Friday, November the 15th, and they play 3 games, don't they? Yeah.
Yes, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, round robin. Top 2 go through to the final.
Yeah. So the Nottingham Panthers are playing Amiens at 3:00 British time, Friday, November the 15th. Then at 3:00 British time again, the Panthers are playing again against Ferencvárosi TC. I probably butchered that name, but I gave it a go. That's all that matters. And then on Sunday at 5:30, the Panthers are playing. Oh, that's a name. Sonderjyks. Let's go with that. So they're playing these 3 different teams. They're 3 games to watch. So you just follow the link on the Nottingham Panthers website. I'm sure they'll post it again closer to the time. I'll probably tune in for 1, 2, maybe all of them. Depends what I'm doing this weekend. But free hockey with the Nottingham Panthers. They look like they could be pretty good in this competition, and they've been playing very well recently. So I'm expecting them to have a good showing. So maybe they'll go to the finals. What's the feeling sort of around the National Ice Centre with the Continental Cup, Chris?
If you'd have asked me a few weeks ago, we'd have said that it was quite difficult we couldn't really see Panthers getting through.
Yeah.
Now we're much more confident around kind of the press and the arenas and all the rest of it, particularly since they only have to be top 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, whilst there's still nothing online, I was talking to Jono about this yesterday, and there is something on at the arena, so it definitely won't be in Nottingham.
Okay.
But it's still not actually been publicised as to what that is at the arena.
Right.
So
that's very interesting. They're keeping it very, very quiet, aren't they?
I'm not sure what it is. So it will be somewhere else, not Nottingham. Obviously, one of the final 4 teams will host.
Yeah.
So it could be any number of them. One of 3 places. But I think considering that only 2 teams have to go through, I mean, the best kind of thing, I suppose, is for Baberis Atrau to win or to get through to the final, and then if Panthers, because they're Kazakhstan, so they won't get in again.
Yeah.
So you've got Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Poland, and Belarus are in the other group. And then in obviously Panthers group, you've got Denmark, Poland,
France.
Denmark, Hungary, and France.
Yeah.
So, be nice if kind of France hosted it, because then it'd be nice and easy to get to. But
that's true. Yeah.
We'll see. I think the confidence seems to be growing, particularly after the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Going into the Continental Cup off the back of 5 regulation time wins and 6 regulation time wins out the last 7. there isn't much better in the way of preparation for it.
And you've got Hansen that's come in and scored basically a goal a game. You've got Bulmer that's finally found his scoring touch, which we've very much talked about. Oh, he should probably go if he doesn't pick up his scoring pace, and he has in a very big way. Obviously, the recent additions and recent subtractions to the lineup have meant that the team is playing a lot better at the moment. So they're going into this competition on a hot streak. So
Yeah.
hopefully the team's confidence will be at an all-time high this season, and perhaps they go and do some damage in the Continental Cup and maybe come away with the plated trophy or whatever it looks like. It looks like those sharing plates that you get from like Sainsbury's. So, before we move on to our players of the week, I would just like to talk about something Chris mentioned just before we went live that I completely forgot about. The under-20 squad for GB. Obviously, the women's team are playing at the moment, or they played this last weekend, didn't they? And they seem to
they had like a mini tournament, yes.
and they seem to play pretty well last time I checked.
They won every game and they won the tournament.
There you go. So they played incredibly well this last weekend. But the under-20 squad, I can't quite remember off the top of my head what the under-20s. Is this for like the EIHL tournament?
This is the IIHF World Championship Division 2A.
Okay, so this is for like the big tournament for that age group.
Yes.
And the roster for the Team GB under-20s has been announced. So, Chris, do you have the list there?
Yes, so this is to run between the 6th and the 12th of January next year. Great Britain will come up against Lithuania, Japan, Romania, Serbia and Spain. They got a bronze medal last year, so they're hoping to go two better than that.
Yep.
Now, they didn't have all of the under-20s available to them.
No.
For example, Liam Kirk, who is still...
He's busy tearing it up in Canada. We can leave him off. He's fine.
Yeah. So we've got quite a lot of players actually from the Elite League, the National League, and I don't think any are from the NIHL. No, they're all either Elite League or National League. So I'll just do the main roster because the long list reserves is obviously a long list. So the two netminders are Will Curlin of the Sheffield Steelers, who kind of, what's the best way of saying it?
He's their third string.
Yeah, he's played one game, and he had 2 saves off 2 save attempts.
So basically, he's a goalie that they've been using in practice. They want to get him some experience with the big club, but they don't feel either confident enough in him, or there hasn't been the opportunity to really play him yet, which is understandable.
He came in towards the end of the Steelers' 10-3 win over Fife when the game was sewn up.
Right. Okay.
Then there's Tyler Pierre of the Swindon Wildcats. In defence, Ed Bradley from Philadelphia, Reece Cochrane of the Sheffield Steel Dogs, Jordan Griffin of the Steel Dogs, Joe Hazeldine of the Panthers, Oliver Lord of the Telford Tigers, Sam Russell of the Milton Keynes Lightning, Ben Solder of Islanders Hockey Club, and Liam Stenton of the Solway Sharks. And then forwards, you've got... my thing's gone too far. Then you've got Mason Biddulph of Berwick Academy, Kieran Brown, obviously of the Steel Dogs, Jordan Boesser of the Flyers, Louis Chabot of Nepean Raiders, Tyler Cooper of the Northeast Generals, Alex Graham of the Steel Dogs, Ethan Hare of the Leeds Chiefs, Patrick Larkin of the Nepean Raiders, Zach Milton of the Bracknell Bees, Austin Mitchell-King of Hill Academy, Cade Nielsen of Aberdeen Wings, and Finlay Ulrich of the Manchester Storm.
So quite a lot of Elite League teams up there, which is good. It goes to show you that we have a lot of young players up and coming in the Elite League, which could hopefully be a solid crop of players for the next 5-10 years. All things considered.
Hopefully.
And like you mentioned, they won a bronze medal last year. They're missing a guy like Liam Kirk, which I think could be quite a big blow to this team.
Yeah, but I can see from Peterborough's point of view, because if he's out for 2 weeks and misses 6-7 games, that's a good chunk of their season.
Oh, absolutely. I completely understand why he's staying in North America, and I think that's the right thing for him, to be honest.
Yeah, there's a difference between the national side and the under-20s.
Yeah, and considering considering how well Kirky's been playing, which we're going to get into in a lot more detail later on, it would be silly to take him out of that when he's still on a pretty hot streak. So, but I think that team is pretty solid. Like you mentioned, we've got a lot of they're not the guys on the roster aren't players that are like lighting up the Elite League. They're not like surprise, incredible like point per game guys in the Elite League, but they're guys that are starting to get regular ice time in the league. They have to make mistakes in order to learn how to become better hockey players, and I think if they keep going this way, if they keep playing in tournaments like this, we're going to have a solid crop of players. The next generation of GB hockey players are going to be pretty solid, if you ask me. So
yeah, there's quite a few there that are on two ways, so it's they go in the right direction, really.
Absolutely. So that's the under-20 squad. Let's move on to the players of the week, shall we? So we don't talk about the Elite League ones because they can never make their mind up when they want to upload it. Instead, we are going to look at our players of the week, which are more entertaining anyway. So, did you go first last week, Chris, or did I?
No, I think you did.
Okay, so Chris, take it away. Who's your icing on the skate player of the week for this week?
Kevin Carr.
Good choice. And why is that?
Of the Nottingham Panthers, saved 50 of 51 shots over the weekend for 98% save percentage, one of those being a shutout against the Belfast Giants as the Panthers took both games in regulation against the Giants, who of course were on a 6-game winning streak going into this weekend, and then lost by 4-1 and then got shut out.
Yeah, so a 6-game winning streak, and then they come up against Kevin Carr. He allows 1 goal in the weekend, and I mean, considering the type of team that Belfast are, and we speak quite highly of Belfast because they're a very strong team, to go and do that's quite impressive. I'm
Carr
impressed.
is the statistics-wise anyway in the Elite League, and I'm talking just the league here, not the Challenge Cup. He's the best netminder.
Well, there you go. So you have gone for a netminder. I have also gone for a netminder. Not from the Nottingham Panthers, though. I have gone for Alex Leclerc. We mentioned him quite a lot, or the league has mentioned him quite a lot so far this season, but he's playing for the Dundee Stars, which is a team that struggled to find wins this season, especially early on. Not in the Challenge Cup, though. They've done very well there. But kind of going off the same thread as Chris mentioned with Carr, Leclerc made 77... or he faced 77 shots this past weekend against Manchester and Fife, and he allowed 4 goals on 77 shots. Both games, he was 92% or more in his save percentage. In the game against Fife, which was a 3-1 win, he had 97.37%. He allowed 1 goal on 38 shots. Then in the Manchester game, he allowed 3 goals on 39 shots. They won both their games this weekend. So I think Leclerc, he's been an absolute rock for the Dundee Stars. Any success that the Dundee Stars are having so far this year is because Alex Leclerc is in net for them. And he is making a good case for himself. I know we've still got plenty to go in the league so far, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was a candidate for goaltender of the year. Like, if he keeps going this way, because sure, the goaltender that wins the league or wins the Challenge Cup is going to get a lot of credit, but Leclerc's the kind of guy that goes under the radar because he plays for a somewhat weaker Dundee side, and he's putting up stats like that. I mean, he's had a rough last couple of weeks, but for quite a few of his games, I'd say for about at least half of his games, his save percentage is 90% or higher, which in the Elite League is incredibly impressive.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things with Leclerc is, I mean, so he's got a save percentage of 89.48 across all competitions.
Yeah.
Kevin Carr's got 91.3, and Kevin Carr's goals against average is better by 1 goal. But Carr has faced 483 shots, and Alex Leclerc's faced 789 shots.
There you go, exactly.
So more than 300 shots. I mean, Leclerc has played every single game.
Yeah.
So 23 games the Stars have played so far this season across all competitions, and he's played every single one. Whereas Carr, because Tim Wallace is rotating with Jackson Whistle quite a bit more, he's only played 16.
Yeah, and so that's why I think he's an early season, sort of 2.5 months into the season. I wouldn't be surprised if he got some votes for goaltender of the year. I think he deserves it so far, in my opinion. He doesn't play for one of the most stacked teams in the league. Like you mentioned, the amount of shots that he's faced in the amount of games that he's played, it's not as if he's just played more games. They get outshot by a large margin quite often. And for the most part, Leclerc manages to stop them. He keeps that team competitive every night. And that's all you can ask from a goaltender, really. So, we've gone through our players of the week. Come on, Chris, throw it on me. End of week quiz. Let's do it.
Right.
So I've closed everything. I'm looking straight at OBS, straight at the live stream. So
for anyone who doesn't know how this works, every week I come up with a quiz which Hayden absolutely hates.
Yeah. And I lose every time.
There's an easy question worth 1, a medium question worth 2, and a hard question worth 3. And I'll be honest, I've kind of lost track of what you're on.
I was going to ask how many points I've got.
I know, I've kind of lost track a bit.
All you got to do, ask the questions, keep track of the points.
Yeah,
you just can't get the help these days.
I was keeping track, and then I kind of stopped keeping track.
Disappointing.
Okay, right, easy question.
Okay.
Belfast had the biggest winning streak until this weekend.
Okay.
Who has it now?
Oh, wow. The Nottingham Panthers.
Yes, with 5 games. 1 point.
Because Belfast were on a 6 game, and I know the Panthers have played really well recently.
Yeah,
and you said that they were on a 5-game winning streak, and then you said 6 of 7, so I thought I may as well go them.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, the Panthers.
Perfect.
You've mentioned quite a bit of this already in this stream, so it's how good is your memory?
Right, okay. It's not very good, so let's figure this out.
Medium question. How many teams had 0-point weekends?
Sheffield. Belfast.
That's 2.
Glasgow didn't. Cardiff didn't. Nottingham didn't. Guildford didn't. Dundee, did they? No. They won both their games this weekend.
You've just spoken
Yeah,
about
exactly.
it.
That's why I'm mentioning it. Who else is there? Coventry didn't. Who else am I missing?
I'm not going to tell you that, am I?
So, of all the teams, let's go through all the teams. So, Nottingham, they didn't have a 0-point weekend. Cardiff didn't have a 0-point weekend.
Right.
Coventry didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Glasgow didn't.
Right.
Oh, Fife. What about Fife? I'll keep them to the side.
Right.
The ones I definitely know are Belfast and Sheffield.
Right. So at the minute, you've got 4 who didn't and 2 that did.
Yeah.
So you've got 4 teams left to go through.
Dundee didn't.
Right.
I'm now struggling to think of the actual teams in the league. Guildford, they didn't because they beat Cardiff last night.
Right.
Who else have I got?
I'm not telling you.
Well, that doesn't help. I can't remember all the teams in the league, Chris.
We talk about them every
I
week.
know, but when you put me on the
10
spot
teams.
like this, I can't remember.
You've got 6 teams who haven't and 2 that have at the minute, so you've got 2 teams left to find.
Now I've got to figure out who the other 2 teams are. Did I say Glasgow yet?
Yes, you did, yeah.
Okay. Said Guildford. Milton Keynes aren't in the league anymore. I've said Belfast. I've said Cardiff. I've said the Steelers. Yeah, the Steelers definitely haven't. That's one of them, right?
I'm not telling you.
Oh, Chris, come on, man. Who are the other 2 teams? Who am I missing? Why am I so dumb?
This is so funny.
You could literally just ask me, name the 11 teams in the Elite League, and I still wouldn't
There's
be able to
only
figure
10.
out. Yeah, exactly! Who are the other teams? Now I've forgotten which teams I've actually mentioned. Nottingham. So these are the ones that haven't.
Right.
Nottingham.
Yep.
Cardiff.
Yep.
Guildford. Dundee. Glasgow. That's 5.
That's 5.
On the other side, Sheffield, Belfast.
Right,
so
that's
2.
7. So you've got 3 teams left. You've gone backwards. from where you were.
Coventry haven't.
Right,
So
that's 6 and 2.
6 and 2.
That's the same 8 that you recited a minute
So
ago.
Fife is one of them. And they lost against Dundee. Did they win a game on Saturday, though? I'm going to say no. I probably got that wrong.
And there's still a team left.
Who's the other team? Who's the other team? Who have I forgotten? Manchester.
Hey!
They lost. They suck. So let's go with Sheffield, Belfast, and Fife. So 3.
Yes!
Yeah!
Right teams.
It was so worth it. God
Oh,
damn it.
that was such a lot of effort.
Oh, wow. Manchester, they sit up there and they sit bottom of the league, so I forget about them,
Oh, dear.
That was
so much effort.
That wasn't even the hard question.
No, that was the medium question.
But so far, 2 for 2.
Right, NHL.
Okay, right. Let's talk.
Right. So, I want you to name me either of the 2 NHL teams. So you've got a choice here.
Okay.
Who are right in the middle of the league standings. And by this, I mean they are the same number of points above the bottom as they are below the top.
Oh, wow. That's a question and a half. Jesus. Can you tell me how many points is the difference?
Okay, so the top team is
Washington.
Who have 29.
29 points. And at the bottom's Ottawa?
No, LA.
Oh, really?
On 11 points.
So the difference in that is 18. So I need to find the 2 teams that are roughly 9 points between top and bottom.
It's not roughly 9, it is 9.
Okay.
So the 2 teams that essentially have 20 points.
2 teams that have 20 points. It's
Either of them, I'm giving you.
It's not the New York Rangers, I know that much. They lost.
You're right, they've got 16.
Yep, they lost to Florida last night in a shootout. That was a great game, by the way. Fantastic. Now I need to know the average teams in the league.
I know. You see, I thought if I went for the teams that are rubbish or the teams that are good, you'll know them.
Oh,
if
yeah.
I went for just the most average side, you'll forget them.
No, I like that. That's a good choice. I hate it because I don't know the answer, but I like it because it's a good choice. I'm going to go with...
I'll let you pick 2, and
2
then we'll
teams.
see if you...
Okay, nice.
You only need one of them.
Can I ask one more question?
It depends what it is.
Are they both in the Eastern Conference, Western Conference, or is there one from each?
I shall let you know.
I feel like that's a fair question to ask because then it narrows it down a little bit.
It's one from each.
One from each. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to go with Florida.
Right.
Because they've had a bit of a shaky season so far, but they played well yesterday. And so that's my one from the Eastern Conference. From the Western Conference, I'm going to go with Nashville because they've struggled as of late.
Right. So, Florida have 21.
Oh.
And Nashville have... Dramatic pause.
Ooh.
21.
So I messed it up.
21. So your teams were too good.
Oh!
By a point.
What was the answer?
The answer is Arizona.
Okay, I didn't have them in my head at all.
Buffalo.
Oh wow, Buffalo have had a fall from grace, haven't they? Oh, do you remember when the Buffalo were at the top of the league?
Points.
Okay.
Interestingly, they are in 17th and 18th, so the top half is more compressed than the bottom half.
I see. Okay. I mean, I was 1 point off for each of those teams, so I wasn't that far off. It's not as if I picked a team that had 25 points on the season, so...
No, it's not.
I'll take that.
1 point off with each side. So, yeah, not too bad, not too bad.
But not good enough, and that's all I need to know. So, before we move on to the NHL and some of the stuff across the pond, Chris Gadsby. So,
hello.
Last night, there was a game with the Nottingham Lions. And for those of you who don't know who are watching, Chris is one of the commentators for the Nottingham Lions. He's like the primary one. You also get other people to come in as well, but you're like the primary one, right? Is that fair to say? You're like the commentator of the Lions?
Yeah, I mean, Jono's done more of the lead stuff in the last few games, but that's because we've started doing TV, and he knows TV commentary better than I do.
Okay, fair enough.
But there's games he can't make where I've got to do them on my own.
But you've been doing it for quite a while, though, for the last couple of seasons, right?
Yes. So it was January 2018 was the first game we did.
Oh, it's almost your 1-year anniversary. Isn't that cute? 2-year anniversary. Yeah. Because 2018,
almost 2 years, yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You're the one that made us start it.
Really? Am I?
Yes, because...
Hey!
Yes, because I invited you up to do it before we'd actually started doing it.
Oh, yeah, and I told you how OBS works.
Yeah, and you told me how OBS works, and then I did one game the week before you came up, and then the second game we ever did was the one that you did.
It's a match made in heaven, ladies and gents, and look how successful their live stream has been since. Some might say I'm a pioneer of the EIHL. There you go.
We are getting you back up again, but on the ice this time. So.
Yeah, well, I need to hear from Matt. He needs to talk to me.
Yes, he did say yesterday that he's going to contact you because he keeps forgetting.
That's fine. Anyway, so I want you to take me through your experience of the game yesterday. So for those of you who don't know, there was a cup game yesterday. The Nottingham Lions, to say that they've struggled over the last few years is a bit of an understatement. Yeah, they've been a team that they've been taking a lot of L's. I think is the best way to say it. So Chris, take us through like the context of the game for last night. So the stuff that happened before,
okay, so
and then the
game. The context of the game is this is in the EIHL Midland Cup.
Yeah.
Which has Solihull, Sutton, Nottingham, Blackburn, and Widnes, who are Liverpool way.
Right.
And they're all in the NIHL 1 Morally division, apart from Widnes, who are in the league below,
right,
the Laidler Conference. And basically, the Lions went to Widnes a few weeks ago, the 29th of September, and won away by 3-2, breaking what was a 51-game losing streak.
Yep.
Which in itself is quite, quite something.
Yeah.
And so as soon as that happened, I don't know about anybody else, to be honest, but myself in particular, went, right, when are Widnes coming here? Basically.
Get the schedule up. Let's plan the parade.
Where's the schedule? When are Widnes coming to the National Ice Centre?
Yep.
Because if we won away from home, that's our best chance of winning at home. Now, for more context, the Lions hadn't won at home since, and I can't remember the exact date, and the kind of history doesn't go back that far on the website, but I know it's December of 2017. When they beat the D-side Dragons by 12-2, and Mark Levers scored 7 points for us, 4 goals and 3 assists.
Wow.
And I know it was definitely December because it was just before I started doing the commentary.
Right, okay.
I've been now commentating on the Lions for 1 year and 10 months.
Yep.
And have yet to commentate on them winning. Until last night.
Hey.
So that's the context. The game itself, everyone went into the game, confident. Not overly so, but everyone they looked at this and went, we've won away from home, this is our opportunity. The Panthers had finished at about 6 o'clock. We'd offered Panthers season ticket holders free entry into our game, which worked to an extent. It must be said, it did work. There were quite a few that came in. And to say it was a roller coaster is a bit of an understatement as well. So what happened was Lions had a great start, 2-0 up inside 3.5 minutes.
Perfect.
And Jono and I on commentary, we were like, right, hello, we've got something going here. Come on, let's
get a few more.
the more the first period went on, the more Widnes kept coming back into the game. But nevertheless, we got into the first period 2-0 up.
Okay.
And for the first time that I can actually remember, probably since we played D-side and won that game, we outshot our opponents at the end of the first period.
Wow.
By 15 shots to 11.
Nice.
Second period, we did get into quite a bit of penalty trouble. We took one at 20:52, one at 22:10, and one at 24.
Right.
So they had quite some 5-on-3 time. Eventually, it just became too much. They got one back at 24:53.
Okay.
But then we pulled ahead again just after the half-hour mark. So it was 3-1. And we thought, right, okay, yeah, this is going well. We were ahead for about a minute and 15
Okay.
at 3-1, and then it became 3-2, and then it was 3-2 for another minute and 15, and then it was 3-all.
It sounds like the New York Rangers this season.
Yeah, and I was just there, just going, "Oh, no,
not again!
Not again! I can see where this is going. We've been in this position.
I've had years of this."
Yeah. So we went in at the end of 2 periods, 3-all. I thought, right, we've still got a game on here.
Yep.
But this is by no means as comfortable as it was 20 minutes ago.
Momentum is in Widnes' favour.
Yeah, and the end of the period break came just at the right time.
Yeah.
So, and when we spoke to Matt afterwards, and he said to the players, look, relax, go out there, play like we did to start with, let's get another early goal, get ourselves back in front.
Yeah.
Which we did. Hey. 39 seconds into the third period.
I bet coaches love it when their players actually listen to them.
They do. Yeah, he does. So we were 4-3 up. Then we scored again. Jack Croston to make it 5-3 with 12 minutes to go.
Okay.
And we started to think, right, okay, we've just got to settle this down now.
Yeah.
5-3 up, that's all good. But it didn't last very long.
Oh.
5-3 lasted for about 2 minutes.
Okay.
At 50-14, it became 5-4.
Okay.
And then 19 seconds later, it was 5-5.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
So after being in the ascendancy, we were then like, right, now they've got all the momentum and we've got to hang on for 9.5 minutes now.
Yep.
Which we just about managed to do. Despite what was his name? Sean Dipnell having a great opportunity with about 6 seconds to go, which he put it wide, and I don't know how he managed to put it wide. He really should have won it.
Right.
But somehow he put it wide. And then we went into overtime. Then partway through overtime, before overtime, we had quite a long stoppage because nobody knew what the rules were. Now,
how does that happen, Chris?
I think because it was a cup game and it's a group stage,
right.
The referee wasn't sure if we actually played overtime or if it was a tie.
Okay, right.
That's what I'm guessing. Anyway, so what happened is the two teams went to their benches and had a bit of a discussion.
Yeah, bit of a timeout. Yeah.
The linesman then legged it down the tunnel. To which we're used to seeing that now, and I'm thinking,
hang on a minute.
Has he become ill? Because that's happened on like the last 3 Lions games. The linesman's become ill.
Interesting.
And then Jono said, I'm wondering if because it's a group stage, they're not sure what the rules, the overtime procedure is, and if they're going to go and check. Sure enough, 20 seconds later, the linesman comes back with an iPhone and a bit of paper that I'm guessing had the league number on it.
I love this.
In the meantime of this, Jono's got on his phone the table for the Midland Cup, and the table clearly says wins, overtime losses. So it's like, right, evidently we've got to play overtime.
So because there's no tie category. Yeah.
Yeah. It's overtime wins and overtime losses. So Jono then puts his mic down and runs from our commentary position to the scoring bench, goes into the scoring table and shows his phone to the referee, and his words were, convinced them to play overtime. So, not entirely sure what happened there anyway. So we played 3-on-3 overtime.
Okay.
Midway through overtime, the stream broke. And
Oh,
everyone
no.
went completely mad because they're like, "Oh my god, it's golden goal! What's going to happen? Please!"
That's like the
Anyway,
worst time.
our technical guy managed to get it back just as overtime was finishing, and we went into a penalty shootout.
Okay.
And we missed our first one. Their first one looked as though it went in, but the referee said no. It just like hit the inside of the post and came out.
Ouch. Okay.
Louis Newell then scored his second one, and Tom Hovell saved ours, and then Harry Hopkins missed his, but then Widnes had to score, and Hovell got his left pad down, made the save. Everybody went mad. Matt's now not very happy because he said on the stream against Sutton that if we beat Widnes, he'd buy me and Jono a drink. And that's the first thing he said when he came round, which was great for us because Jono and I had both forgotten about that.
Perfect.
And he said, "Oh, I'm not happy now because I've got to get my wallet out and buy you both a drink." And we were like, "Oh yeah, forgot about that." But yeah, he came around and we'd had about a 10-minute post-match interview with him and Paul Glossop, and everybody was very happy.
Did he like my reaction to the Lions winning? Because you said you showed it to him, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. What happened? So we just finished, and I turned the stream off, and then I went onto your live stream and put "Lions won a game," and then I saw you. It was still on silent, but I saw you react to it. So it was like, right, full screen, drag it back about 40 seconds, volume up, and he just started laughing.
Good.
But
Good.
no, it was a bit of a roller coaster from being in front, pegged back, nearly losing.
Referee running away, picking up an iPhone, Jono going into the scorer's bench. If you guys want to know how British semi-professional hockey works, that's kind of how it works.
Watch the stream back
and
go towards like the overtime period where Jono and I are going, right, what's going on? What's happening? Why has he gone away? Why are they not doing this? Why is that happening?
Yeah.
Right, Jono's going to go and try and find out and sort it out. I'm going to keep talking and say what.
Yeah.
It was just brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And we've got Solway next week, so normal business will be resumed.
So that's a little look into the Nottingham Lions. I want to say a big congratulations to the Nottingham Lions for their win against Widnes at home. The Lions organisation have been great to me. They let me come down about a year ago now, like Chris and I mentioned, and do some commentary. We're going to figure out some way that I can go down there and maybe learn to play some hockey, maybe learn to ice skate a little bit. So that's maybe in the works. You'll see at some point. But yeah, congratulations to the Nottingham Lions. But now let's move across the pond from the Elite League and British hockey to the National Hockey League. So we've got a couple of small little pieces of information here to talk about. Then we've got a few other pieces to talk about in terms of like the NWHL, the National Women's Hockey League, and some other pieces of information. Then we'll be done for the day. So, the National Hockey League, the standings are as follows. In first place with a 6-game winning streak, the Washington Capitals, 29 points in 18 games. Second place with a 7-game winning streak, the St. Louis Blues with 27 points. Edmonton are still going pretty strong so far this season, 26 points in 19 games. Then on 25 points, we have the New York Islanders, who recently had their 10-game winning streak snapped by Pittsburgh, and the Boston Bruins, who are on a 3-game losing streak. We're going to talk about them in a lot more detail tomorrow on Brits on Bruins. Go watch that; it's very good. Then with
I'm on it.
Absolutely. So with 23 points, the Calgary Flames in 6th place, 23 points in 20 games. Then with 22 points, we have the Colorado Avalanche, the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. With 21 points, we have a lot of teams. We have Nashville, Pittsburgh, Montreal, Florida, Vancouver, Winnipeg, and Vegas. That takes 10th spot all the way down to 16th spot. With 20 points, we have Arizona and Buffalo. With 19 points, we have Carolina and Anaheim. With 18 points, we have Tampa and Dallas. With 16 points, we have the Rangers. Hey, Rangers, I'm wearing a Rangers shirt. And the Chicago Blackhawks. Got it for my birthday. Leave it alone. And then 15 points, Columbus. Columbus haven't done very well this year. Columbus and San Jose. San Jose, they've won 3 straight now. They're starting to pick things up. They've had a very, very poor start to the season. 14 points, we have the New Jersey Devils. 13 points, we have Ottawa, Minnesota, and Detroit. And then with 11 points, like we mentioned during the quiz, the Los Angeles Kings in last place in the league. So the 2 big winning streaks to mention are Washington and St. Louis, 6 and 7 games respectively. And in terms of losing streaks, we've got 4-game losing streak for the Carolina Hurricanes and for the Buffalo Sabres. So those are the 2 teams kind of struggling to pick up wins recently. So there you go. Those are the NHL standings. No real surprises there other than Minnesota being right at the bottom. So Bruce Boudreau might not be there for much longer. Anyway, we've got another player soon to play 1,000 NHL games, and that is Los Angeles Kings forward Jeff Carter, the 2-time Stanley Cup champion with the Los Angeles Kings. He's expected to play his 1,000th NHL game when the Kings face the Vegas Golden Knights on Saturday. That's this Saturday coming up, I believe. The 34-year-old centre, chosen by the Philadelphia Flyers with the 11th pick in the 2003 draft. He has 711 points in 997 games. Not 9,000, that would be crazy.
9,000
Yeah, I was going to say, his point percentage wouldn't be that good then. 711 points, 997 games. He's played for the Flyers, the Blue Jackets, and the Kings. He was acquired in a trade with Columbus on February 23rd, 2012, and he won the Stanley Cup that season and again in 2014. He has 6 points so far this season. So, Chris, anything you want to mention about Jeff Carter, 2-time Stanley Cup champion, playing his 1,000th NHL game this week?
Yeah, I mean, as we said with, was it Chara last week with his 1,500th? I mean, hitting a milestone like that is always nice to hit. Hopefully he can do something good on his 1,000th game, make it even more memorable as well.
Absolutely. Hopefully he scores a hat-trick or something, because that's the way the hockey gods like to work, right? So congratulations to him. Hopefully they play well against Vegas. They could do with a win, so we'll see how it goes. Then another thing to mention, we talked about the Nashville Predators releasing their designs for their Winter Classic jersey, of course, for the 1st of January 2020. The Dallas Stars, who are playing at home, it's being played at the Cotton Bowl in Texas. They have released the pre-orders for their Winter Classic jersey, a look at their jersey, and oh my lord, it looks beautiful. I absolutely love it.
Like it.
I really like it, and I really want one. So they've also taken the history of Dallas hockey, like we mentioned last week, the Dixie Flyers of Nashville, the first professional hockey team in Nashville. They wanted to take big inspiration from that. The Dallas Stars have done so. They've taken their caption has been like 78 years of hockey history in Texas, which they've used to inspire their jersey. Incorporated elements of the logo from the Dallas Texans, who played in the United States Hockey League between 1945 and 1949. They've taken some other inspirations from some other teams as well. Basically, they've tried to make a jersey that combines all of the hockey history of the Dallas Stars, injected it into the current Dallas Stars jersey, which I love the green on the Dallas Stars jersey as it is. And this Winter Classic jersey looks incredible. I'm actually really looking forward to this Winter Classic this year, because it's 2 teams that have never had the chance to play in it, and in a place that's never had the opportunity to host it. So hopefully we get to see a really good game, but one thing's for sure, we have some very, very good looking jerseys. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, they look really good. I'm just checking that there's no anything that's breaking that happens.
Okay.
You'll like this. Sidney Crosby's not going to play against the Rangers.
Hey! But then again, he's injured,
because of a lower body injury.
Yeah,
exactly. The Elite League have announced their Player of the Week.
Okay, who is it?
Kevin Carr.
Good choice.
And other news, although it's not been fully confirmed yet, Don Cherry has been fired by Sportsnet.
No way! Have they actually gone through with that?
Well, it's not been official yet, but that's what a few places are now reporting.
Of all of the things to kind of get rid of Don Cherry, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't expecting this one to be it. Because, so, sidetrack a little bit. Don Cherry, I'm not going to go into the whole incident, because, to be honest, it's something that everybody has an opinion on. I don't think my opinion really matters, and I don't really want to get into the rabbit hole of this whole conversation.
No, let's not.
of course, I completely respect our veterans. I completely respect Canadian immigrants. Of course, I have a different perspective on it because I'm not a Canadian immigrant. I don't live in Canada. I wasn't born in Canada. I've been to Canada and worked there for the last 2 summers, and I love it. I love Canada. It's a lovely place, but I haven't emigrated over there. I mean, Remembrance Day and Veterans Day is something that happens all over the world, not just in Canada. And I feel like poppies are a big topic of conversation. They're important, and remembering those that have fallen in order to give us the luxuries that we have today is incredibly important. It's an interesting situation because Don Cherry's been called out for a lot of stuff that he said for a very long time. So the fact that it's this that's brought him down, I'm kind of surprised with, actually, because like he's said loads of, for want of a better term, controversial or crazy things over the years. I don't really watch Coach's Corner, so I don't really care. Like, you can't really get it much over here anyway, or when you do. But it doesn't bother me. Like, whether he's hired or not, Hockey Night in Canada isn't a thing for us, like, UK fans. It's just, I watch Rangers games. They don't often play in Canada, so Hockey Night in Canada is something I don't see very often. So Don Cherry, if he has been fired, I would imagine, obviously, it's because of the huge backlash that this situation has been faced for a large part with good reason. I'm not going to say that one side is completely in the right and one side is completely in the wrong. I think both sides make very fair points. Maybe the ones criticising Don Cherry are slightly more in terms of the points that they make. It's just a conversation that I think as British fans we can't really get into, like, too much, because we're not the people that he's addressing. We're not the people that he was discussing when he made his remarks. And I'm not going to get offended on somebody else's behalf, although that is kind of a popular thing to do nowadays. Anyway, so Don Cherry perhaps has been fired. We don't know that for sure. We'll keep an eye out and we'll see how it goes. But anyway, speaking of one person getting in trouble, we'll talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets captain Nick Foligno, who is having a hearing with the NHL's Department of Player Safety. The hearing is taking place today at some point. He is facing discipline for elbowing Colorado Avalanche forward Pierre-Edouard Bellemare on Saturday. Essentially, from what I've seen, he elbows Bellemare. Bellemare is like similar to the Bacchus Sabourin situation that we talked about on Brits on Bruins. He very much looks like he's out cold before he even hits the ice. Head hits the ice. He has to leave the game with an undisclosed injury. I don't think he had to go to hospital. It hasn't mentioned any of that in this report from NHL. And Foligno supposedly said, like, oh, I was disgusted when I saw it. I couldn't even look at it. It made me sick, kind of thing. So I would imagine he'll get a game or two for what happened. We'll see, I guess. We'll see. Anything you want to mention on Nick Foligno, Chris?
No, I haven't seen it, so I can't really comment,
Fair
to be
enough.
honest.
And then this will be something that will make Chris cry. So,
oh god, I know, because I've seen it, so I know what you're saying. Yeah, okay.
The Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, we're gonna win the cup.
No, you're not. So
yeah, we are.
Mitch Marner, their $12 million guy or something. I can't remember how much he's being paid. I don't really care at this point. Mitch Marner,
10.5 on it,
something like that. Will be out at least 4 weeks for the Toronto Maple Leafs with an ankle injury. Now, interestingly, somebody in our fantasy league tried to trade me Mitch Marner just as it was announced before. Like, it was announced he wasn't coming back for their next game, and before it was said it was 4 weeks, they tried to trade Mitch Marner to me for Panarin. And I was like,
were they hoping you hadn't seen it?
Yeah, they were. And then I checked his like profile as they like said it to me. So I was like, that's not a trade that people often make, and it was like out. So I had a look. It was like, oh, he's out with an ankle injury, and I was like, yeah, I'm not making that trade. I'm not an idiot. Like, come on, I'm not that dumb. So yeah, he's out 4 weeks with an ankle injury. So far this season, he has 18 points. He's second on the Maple Leafs roster, 18 points in 18 games. Chris, how upset are you about this?
To be honest, I've really not been following the Maple Leafs that intently this year.
But you want to cry about it, right?
Purely because I have so much other stuff on.
Fair enough.
No, to be honest, I'm really not that bothered.
Fair enough. So Chris isn't a real Maple Leafs fan. So if we have any Maple Leafs fans watching, Chris isn't a real believer. He doesn't think you guys are going to win the cup. He just doesn't care anymore, guys. He thinks
we're in ninth. We are.
You can't
in
use
second.
you can't use the proverbial we anymore, Chris. You just announced that you don't follow them.
I haven't followed them this season as much as I should, other than looking at their scores on Flash scores.
You must use the term they, not we.
They, right? you try doing 2 jobs, moving house, 3 internet shows a week, and you try and keep up intently with the Rangers.
I mean, I do YouTube. Does that count?
No.
I haven't moved house. I do Brits on Bruins twice a week. So
you've got 1 job.
Yeah.
You've got 1 job, not moving house, and 3 internet shows a week.
You know what? I'm actually honoured that you called YouTube a job. That's very nice of you, Chris. I appreciate that.
Do you get money for it?
Absolutely.
Then it's a job.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I say. Thank you. So anyway, we've gone really off topic again.
We do this.
We do.
Where are we?
So Mitch Marner.
NWHL.
Yeah. So Mitch Marner, he's out now. I wanted to bring this up because I saw this as I was scrolling down Twitter one day. I sent it to Chris, and then as I was coming up with the topics, I reminded myself of it, and I wanted to go through this. So you guys will remember that earlier this season, it was announced that the National Women's Hockey League, which is a primarily US-based, I believe they have 2 teams from Canada now, because they got snapped up when the Canadian Women's Hockey League went under. They announced that they were going to be live streaming all of their games, or as many games as possible, on Twitch, which is, of course, the popular live streaming platform. I used to do Twitch many, many years ago. It was a good time. I quite enjoyed it. I now do hockey stuff on YouTube, which is much more fun, and I get paid for it. So, the National Women's Hockey League, they've released some stats based on their first month, which was October, so the last month. Interestingly, the NWHL on Twitch was supposedly viewed by 949,065 fans in October, which is almost 1 million. Like, they almost had 1 million views total in the month of October, which just goes to show you that there is interest in the women's league in America, which is great. Is it rivaling the NHL? No, of course not. Not yet. Is it rivaling some of the other big leagues in the world? Probably not. Does it help the fact that Twitch is free to watch? Absolutely. But some interesting stats for you. So the NWHL on Twitch, they released their viewership data. It's for the 14 games that were streamed on NWHL and their second channel, NWHL2, on Twitch between October 5th and October 27th. The total viewers, 949,065. The average viewers per game, 67,790. Which, for, like, live streaming numbers, is huge. That's really big.
We get about 200, so...
Absolutely. Like, my live stream, if I get, like, 15, 20... Like, if you get something like 15, 20 viewers, like, concurrent per live stream, that's pretty, like... you're doing okay. It doesn't sound like much, but you're doing okay.
Well, considering that according to my laptop, we've got 8 watching.
Exactly. There you go. So, the total chat messages also sent on the live chat and stuff, 24,538. So, I was expecting that to be a lot more, considering the amount of people watching, but I would imagine they are moderating that quite closely. Now, this is where it really interests me. The percentage of viewers by country. The USA lead it with 60%. So 60% of all the viewers of the NWHL in October came from America. The next highest was the UK. The UK had 10% of the viewers of the NWHL. So they had, 94,000, almost 95,000 views.
We like our hockey over here.
And also, the games that take place in the NWHL are a little bit more European friendly in terms of times.
Yeah.
They start earlier. And interestingly, we beat out Canada by 1%. Only 9% of the viewers of the NWHL were from Canada. The most watched game was Buffalo at Boston on October 12th. That had 145,000 total views. And the registered followers on NWHL on Twitch, 5,752. So this is really awesome for the NWHL. I've got to admit, I haven't really had a time to check into any of these games, but it is on my list of things to do. It's just kind of finding the right time and knowing when the games are on. It's been a little while since I last used Twitch, but I would be interested in watching a couple of these games, especially because they're free. I think this is a brilliant idea. I think this is such a fantastic idea for the NWHL, and by the looks of it, it's working out for them so far. So, and just for context, the 10% of UK viewers, none of the players in the league are from the UK.
No.
So, 10% of their viewers are supporting a league that we have no, for want of a better term, vested interest in. Which I think is great. Anything you want to add on that, Chris?
I mean, I think it's only going to grow,
Absolutely.
and it's obviously positive for the sports in terms of particularly the women's sport. I'd love to see something similar in the Elite League.
Yeah, me too.
Until there's kind of like one overall body that kind of splits the money and has a salary cap, and obviously everyone's in it together, because all the teams are separate businesses at the minute. Obviously, it's not going to happen. But...
No. But, like...
Yeah, very good.
I think other teams or other leagues might pay attention and see, oh...
Yes, I think they will.
The NWHL is doing pretty well on Twitch. Maybe we should jump on. Now, Twitch has kind of been debated a lot recently. Some people have said that they're very much like on the decline at the moment. Some people are saying they're very much like holding firm at the moment. A mix has been a big conversation. It kind of seems like Twitch is moving away from like the standard gaming stuff that they became known for, and now maybe doing sports broadcasting and stuff like that might be a way forwards. If other leagues follow suit, that might be a really good place for Twitch to capitalize on a market. Because I mean, they do it on YouTube as well, but Mix is a big live streaming platform that's taking quite a few like big streamers away from Twitch to join their ranks. So maybe going into the more lifestyle sports streaming is a route forward for them. Who knows? But anyway, that's the discussion of all of that stuff. We have a pretty short Brits Abroad for you this week because there's been an international break for quite a lot of the European teams. The KHL especially has not been in action.
KHL, DEL, they're all on break. So Brits Abroad is literally Liam Kirk.
Hey.
3 games this week, 1 goal, 2 assists. His total 24 points in 19 games. That's 11 goals and 13 assists. 3rd in the team in points.
One other thing I'd like to mention is I should have a set of hockey cards coming soon that has an autographed Peterborough Pete's card from Liam Kirk. So should be coming within the next week or so, and I'm very much looking forward. Absolutely. And I got some really nice like NHL cards. I got like a Wayne Gretzky card, a Mark Messier card. So I'm like, yes. As a little birthday present for myself, why not? So, that's all of that stuff. We'll quickly run through fantasy, which if I find what I'm looking for, should be here. Let me bring it up. Yep, okay, so should look like this. Boom. Oh, look, our wonderful faces. Let's move them out of the way while we look at the fantasy. Sorry, Chris. I know you're such eye candy, but still.
Oh, I know. Absolutely.
So, I destroyed Chris's team this week because I knew he wasn't paying much attention.
Bloody
yeah, 128. That's the best week I've had, and of course it comes against you.
I'll tell you why you completely destroyed me. Is because I rely a lot on Boston, and they were awful.
Good point. That's a really good point, actually. The Breadman also played very well this week, and Petrangelo I've got on my lineup. They're on a 7-game winning streak, so there you go. The Sucker Punchers narrowly defeated the Thrashers, 76-74. The Flames very narrowly beat Cardiff Block 13, 54-52. The Swarm beat the Clappers. The Raiders beat the Wildcards. Djurgården beat Max's Nottingham Outlaws. That's a shame. The Netters beat the Labrador Boys, or whatever they're called, 105-62. The Jets beat the Trapezoids, 106-57. Angry Beavers beat McLafferty, 101-75. And the Spitfire beat the Missing Teeth, 101-61. I got the most points this week. That's not too bad.
Woo.
If only I'd done that like 3 weeks ago, so I wouldn't be 2-4-0 on the season. So the upcoming schedule.
You weren't already like at the bottom half of the table.
Tell me about it. Well, I'm doing better than you are, so it's fine.
Oh yeah.
So this week,
to be honest though, I really couldn't care this year.
Exactly.
I'm like Nico Rosberg. I won it, and now I'm retiring.
So this week I'm playing the Turku Wildcats. The Thrashers are playing the Flames. The Swarm are playing the Sucker Punchers. The Lions are playing Cardiff Block 13. The Raiders playing the Clappers. The Outlaws playing the Labrador Boys. Trapezoids playing Djurgården. The Angry Beavers playing the Netters. The Spitfire playing the Jets, who both have the same logo, which is quite funny. And the Teeth playing McLafferty. So that is how the fantasy looks like so far. Bring back our lovely faces. We've got enough time for maybe 1 or 2 questions. We're kind of overrunning a little bit at this point. So I had a lot of questions regarding the New York Rangers, so I'll just sum them up briefly before we move on to a couple of quick other questions. So the New York Rangers, New York Rangers, they... we're still back here. Don't worry, we're good. I think it's your internet, Chris. You might be struggling a little bit.
Oh, you disappeared? No, it's not my internet.
Mine's going fine today. Everything's fine on the board for me. For once, it's not my fault.
Whatever. Right. Okay.
So the New York Rangers...
There was a lot to do with the Rangers that I can say nothing about.
Yeah, so I'm quite happy with how the Rangers are playing. They're a team that's learning. They're a very young team, especially defensively. I am very impressed with Adam Fox. I think his hockey IQ is fantastic. He is very strong with making those outlet passes and not getting... He doesn't give the puck over too many times in the defensive zone. I can see why he was a Hobie Baker finalist last year in the NCAA. I really like him. I'm glad the Rangers picked him up. He wanted to play for the Rangers, so here he is. That's wonderful. I also like Lindgren. I like Hayek. Hayek's solid. I really like Hayek. Nice to see Ryan Lindgren get his first NHL goal after being called up with Heatle a week or so ago. I'm liking how Philip Heatel's playing. I quite like how Lias Andersson is playing. I know a lot of people are like, he should be scoring more, but you're playing him on the 4th line, so what do you expect? Like, he's not going to score that many points with Michael Haley and Brendan Smith. Like, it's just not going to happen. So let him gain that physical edge to his play, focus more on the defensive side of the puck. Send him down to Hartford if you want to, but I'm quite happy with how he's playing. He's not expected to be a top point scorer for the team, so he's just learning... He's learning to play that two-way game at the moment, so fair play to him. Zibanejad, I hope he comes back soon. We're very much missing him. Really impressed with Ryan Strome. I would like to keep Strome and Panarin together because I think those two complement each other quite nicely. But then again, Zibanejad's going to come back soon. He's probably going to get split up from them. But Strome is really proving to Rangers fans that he deserves to be there. Early on in the season, everybody was calling for his head. He had a 6-game point streak. He's now on a 3-game point streak. Points in 9 of his last 10. He's playing well. He's a point-per-game player so far this season. So he might have finally found a home in New York, just not with the team that he was drafted with. Yeah, I'm happy with the New York Rangers. Lundqvist has played absolutely incredibly these last few games. Had a bit of a rough game against the Panthers this last game, but he stole us 2 wins against teams we should not be winning against if we're in a rebuild. So I'm happy with the Rangers. We've still got a long way to go. I think if anybody thinks we're going to be a cup contender this year, they can be blissful in their ignorance, but don't, because it's not going to happen. I think next year will be good. The year after, I think we will be a force to be reckoned with in the NHL. We've just got to have patience with it. We've got plenty of good guys in our prospect pool. We've got several very key guys locked up. Once we get rid of the Smith and the Stahl contracts, I think we'll be rocking and rolling. So that's my thoughts on the New York Rangers. Anything else?
The other one, it was more kind of a piece of news rather than a question, was Planet Ice have announced they will be making a new rink in Bristol for the Bristol Pitbulls, who have played their home games in Oxford for the last 12 years.
Okay.
So that'll be really good for Bristol.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Which league do they play in? NIHL?
Yeah, it'll be the South.
Okay. That's pretty good. Fair play. Interesting that they're still called the Bristol team, yet they play their games in Oxford. Why not just call them the Oxford team then? Or do they already have a team in Oxford?
Yeah, they've got the Oxford City Stars.
I see. Okay. Interesting. Interesting how that works. Once again, semi-professional slash beer league, British hockey. Fascinating. It always is. Anything else? We've probably got time for one more. Is there one that I can ask Chris?
It seemed to be. No, it was kind of it really. The chat's been very quiet tonight.
Okay. Well, I mean, we haven't had that many people tune in tonight, which is fine, as long as you guys tuned in for my Movember stream yesterday, which I'm really happy to announce. After the live stream yesterday, by the looks of it, we raised about $75 in the stream. We had one guy donate $55, which was incredible. And we had another 2 people donate $10 each, so that works out about £58. So we're over halfway
There is the question for me.
Oh, go for it. Chris, how did you get into commentary for the Lions? Go for it, quick.
Okay, so basically when I came out of uni,
Yeah,
they
Cardiff.
advertised for a media officer, and then I got it alongside Jono, and then we started doing live Twitter updates for the games and writing the reports and news stories for the website. And then basically I went, right, Lions, next game I'm going to commentate. I've got the stuff. And that was basically, you've got Wi-Fi. There's a plug socket, so my laptop's got charge. I've got a headset. Let's commentate. And then the first one went well. You then came for the second one.
Hey, and it's all thanks to me.
And it just kind of kept going, really. So, I mean, if you're interested in that sort of thing, Crocy, literally just send an email to your team.
Or go and talk to them.
Yeah. Well, send an email, let them know you're interested, go and talk to them, and it can literally go to anything. I'm not going to lie, it's my work with the Lions and doing that for the last 18 months that got me the gig now covering Panthers for the BBC.
Yep.
So it's the Lions stuff that means I'm now with the BBC, so it can lead up and up and up. So if you're interested in it, go for it, because you've got nothing to lose.
Which, like, I am somewhat envious or, like, a little bit jealous because, like, I'd love to be able to do stuff like that, but I don't live close to many rinks. So it's one of those things if I lived close to a rink, then I'd be getting involved with the local team and seeing what I can do.
Your closest one, I suppose, is Chelmsford, but that's still quite a way.
Yeah, Chelmsford, yeah. And then, like, the closest one that's kind of higher brow is Milton Keynes. And that's still a journey, so... But yeah, that's an interesting point. I am hoping to come up, I should say, to the Lions at some point. We'll figure it out. But anyway, I think this has been a pretty good stream. There wasn't a huge amount to talk about this week, but we found some more interesting topics like the NWHL and the Under-20 squad to discuss. So yeah, I think we will end this week's episode of the Icing on the Skate podcast here. Go and watch Brits on Bruins. Check out my Movember page, excuse me. That would be awesome. I'd love to raise £100 by the end of the month. We're not even halfway through the month. We're over halfway to my target, so I'm really happy. The live stream yesterday went incredibly well. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to have another video going out this week. I'm not quite sure what it is yet, though. I've got a couple of things. I might put up a poll later tonight with a couple of suggestions and see what you guys think. We'll figure it out. We usually do. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good week. We'll see you again soon. Goodbye.